you're in a really cool space. Is this the Jack Nutrition space?
So this is actually the banquet center in the pasta garage. So my team is actually on the other side here, prepping and
Hmm.
cooking for the week. And so I am here. And this is kind of like features a lot of local artists, so it's a great spot to shoot a podcast.
What is it? What is it called? I'm not familiar with it.
It's the Banchetta, which is the banquet center here at Pasta Garage.
Oh, cool. And
Hmm.
and then your like kitchen is also there, and it just happens to be a cool podcast space.
Correct.
Well, that's very cool. That's very
Yeah.
convenient. Very cool. So your team's over there, and is this where you operations have always been?
Yes. So operations have always been there besides when we first started the business. We first started the business, it was kind of like a beta program.
Yeah.
So just kind of getting a feeler out there. Hey, is this something that our community needs?
Yeah.
Wasn't even doing it for, I was doing it for less than a year. And my husband was like, look, if you hit this number, like you can quit your job, do this full time. And that
Whoa.
next week we hit that number. So
Oh my
then
gosh.
it was time to find a commercial kitchen space because technically in Kentucky, you have to be in a commercial kitchen space if you're going to sell product. So it's called a
Right.
grand mal law is the reason why they have that. So like it all came about because some lady was like canning like
Yeah.
apples and stuff like that, but it was doing it all within her house. And so then they made a law out of it. So
Penalizing grandmas. I don't know about that in
that
Kentucky.
I know,
Not a good
right?
look.
I know, right?
So you were saying that you started the business for a while and then you like, well, let's actually see if there like measure the need and see if that
Yeah.
and then you hit it within a certain week.
Yeah, absolutely. So we really started a beta program that was just to
Yeah.
protect us. Basically, I was working a corporate job at the time,
Mm,
also prepping my own food. My husband was an engineer, going in and out of automotive spaces and facilities.
mm,
And with doing that, we were prepping our own food.
yeah.
And so what we would do is like we prepped our own food. And I had someone ask me, they're like, hey, like, where'd you get that food that I had heated up for my lunch?
Yeah.
And it was like blackened salmon or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I made this. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'd pay for you to do that for me. And I'm like, it's really hard to cook for two people. So
Yeah.
let me just ask my husband because we usually have stuff left over from prep. And I was like, hey, people want to buy our food. Can you believe that? And he's
Yeah.
like, and I'm like, what did you do? What did you do? He goes, I've been selling your meals for the past 3 months. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes,
What?
well, you go into an automotive factory. These guys are living off of peanut
Yeah.
butter crackers and Mountain Dew. And
Right.
they see me. I have my steel toes on too, look just like them. But, of course, they're like, how do you eat so healthy? Or how is it that you can live a healthy lifestyle? And so he shared his kind of testimony with them. Of course, he had a kind of health scare, grew up in the foster care system. And so he kind of shared his story, and then people would be like, he'd see them and they'd see the meal, and then he would, the next time they saw him, they're like, hey, you got one of those meals? I'll pay you $5.
Wow.
And so then he started selling the meals, and he was like, I was like, wait a minute. So this is a thing. And he's like, yeah, this is a thing.
How
So
did you not notice that he was had been selling
just
meals?
saw you get married and,
Yeah, I guess.
spouse eats, I guess,
That's funny. You
that's
thought,
just
man,
kind
he's
of.
such a good appetite. That's so
So I
funny.
was like, whatever, he's taking them to work with him or eating them. It wasn't uncommon for us to eat like 6 meals a day. We both like have a bodybuilding kind of background. So that
Mm.
wasn't weird. Um,
Oh, okay.
but it was like that wasn't strange necessarily. But I'm like, dang, what happened to all of that? I got to prep more.
That's funny.
And so that's kind of like the short version origin story of Jacked. We really came up with the idea on our first date. We were on a tailgate of a truck with a Walmart rotisserie chicken and some grapes, and we were eating on a plan. And we're like, man, there's got to be like a way that you can have food like a restaurant, but that's
Yeah.
healthy for you at any point in time. And that
Nice.
was like, we didn't know that at the time that we were just planting seeds. We were just
Right.
manifesting at that point in time with, like I said, where good and bad ideas alike happen on the tailgate of a truck. So
My first date with my wife was at a Fazoli's, so very other end of the spectrum. I was not even thinking about nutrition at
absolutely,
all. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, that's funny. So, so it seems like he'd been doing this for a long time, like selling your meals. Like, was it the tastiness of the meals? Do you think that was compelling, or just that they were there, or that they were convenient? That like, what do you think? What people were like? Like, what was the initial idea that sort of like, oh, this could be a thing?
Um, Honestly, it was a way in which we were staying on track. Okay. So
Okay.
it was like, I was in body recomp and like,
What is body recomp?
so like recomposition. So basically, when people say that they want to body recomp, like what they want to do is change the composition of their body. So
Yeah.
they want to lose fat, but keep, or if they can, add a couple pounds of muscle.
Right. Right.
So
Rather
that's
than
like
just a
body.
number on a scale going down, which maybe
Exactly,
that's, yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So when people say they want to be lean, what they mean is that we only want to keep as much muscle mass and have that visibly showing as much as possible
Yeah.
and lose the body fat. So
Yeah.
that way their body fat isn't so high, which is usually what is covering up muscle
Yeah.
that people want to in
Right.
a physique way, they want to see, right?
Yeah.
So we were both doing that. He was competing bodybuilding when I first met him.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, well, what is this thing? And learned about macronutrients, things like that.
Hmm.
But I actually was hypoglycemic. I was diagnosed hypoglycemic when I was 16. And that
Mm.
really flipped my world upside down. I was a three-sport athlete, got taken out of a volleyball game by a referee because he saw physical symptoms like of distress. I guess his brother had like diabetes or
Oh, wow.
something.
What a
And
coincidence. Yeah.
yeah, and made the coach take me out of the game. And I was furious. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I had no idea. But that
Right.
next week in volleyball practice, I would pass out, and that would lead to a very, very long time of trying to figure out my nutrition,
Oh,
being a
wow.
three-sport athlete, and I think the max week I went to the ER 3 times
Oh my gosh.
because I couldn't figure out how to eat with my blood sugar and my activity level, and I'm 16, so you're talking about lots
Right.
of changes going on. And with that, that's what really got me interested in nutrition. Because I went
Okay.
to dietitians, I went to my PCP that I had since I was a baby, and they put me on a 12,000 calorie or a 1,200 calorie diet. Well, if you're 16 playing three sports, basically everyone just looked at me and they're like, "You're healthy for the most part. You just have this thing." But no one really was telling me what was going on.
Right.
And so then they said, "Look, if you don't get this figured out, you're gonna have to go on medication. You can't keep coming in the ER. You can't, this is going to do damage to your body if you don't get this figured out." So, and no one in my family, mind you, has any blood sugar issues at all.
Okay.
So this was like new. My family had no idea what to do. They're like, "We only eat how we know how to eat." Uh,
What's even the rationale to like restrict your calories to so small?
It was just some PDF that they gave to
Oh, they're
anyone
just
from
like,
ages
oh,
like who knows what age, but it looked like what you would give an elderly person
yeah.
who it maybe has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and give them a healthy diet. It was just a PDF. It was just blanket. There was no
Yeah.
consideration of lifestyle. And when they said, "Hey, you're going to need to go on medication if you don't figure this out," I decided at that point in time that that was not going to be an avenue I wanted to take.
Mm.
And I'm going to have to figure this thing out. So that's
Because
what
you just hate
really,
taking medicine, or you're an anti-medicine person?
I didn't see the need and I didn't want to be tied to that my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, we're going to have to figure this out. My parents had no idea. It was just kind of like, Jess, just start doing things that you think will work, do some research. So I started doing a high protein diet. So if I did have carbs, I would typically pair it with protein to kind of
Hmm.
keep my body from utilizing all those carbs all at once.
And you're
Um,
16. You're 16 at this point.
yeah, yeah.
And what are you using to like guide you? Like, how are you figuring out like
Searching the internet.
the internet? Right.
Like
Okay.
looking at like, okay, hypoglycemia, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because it was a really poor explanation. Basically, they'd show me like what my glucose test was,
Mm.
but I'm 16. I'm like, okay, glucose is sugar,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So basically what happens is my body doesn't utilize insulin or like regulate my blood sugar normal. So what'll happen is my blood sugar will spike. And also, mind you, I have high adrenaline. And so when you are 16, you're playing sports, you're
Right.
utilizing adrenaline a lot. So having high adrenaline would also deplete those insulin stores because my body is telling me, "Hey, like we need you, we need you, we need you.
Mm.
We're on high
Hmm.
alert."
Hmm.
And then my sugar would go up. And then instead of like tapering down like normal, it would
Yeah.
like burn through it and then crash below normal
Crash.
levels.
I see.
So then you have very similar symptoms to what a diabetic would experience. So you're pale, shaking, um, irritable, tired, brain fog like crazy.
Really?
And so having all of those symptoms that can disrupt a normal person, but if you let it go long enough, you can just literally pass out because your body's like, we're done. Like, we don't have
Yeah.
what we need. We're done.
Yeah.
And that was what was happening to me. So, not being 16, having the rap as the girl who passes out all the time, not
Not
good.
cool.
I had
Not cool. Yeah.
aspirations of playing college ball. I was no longer a reliable athlete because I was passing out. And I realized whatever is being prescribed to me doesn't fit my lifestyle. And my lifestyle is different than most.
I think that's a pretty mature perspective for a 16-year-old, or just like an aware perspective. Like when I was 16, I was like, duh. Like as I said, first date at Fazoli's, that's where I was.
Yeah.
So you're a bit precocious, I would say. Did you ever have a chance to go back and talk to that ref and be like, hey, by the way, thanks for taking me out of that game?
I have no idea who he was. It
No
was
idea
like an
who it
away
was.
game, so I
Oh, an
have
away
no
game.
idea. Um, Obviously there were signs leading up to that I didn't
Yeah.
think anything of until we got the diagnosis. That made sense. Like I think earlier that year, during a softball game, I was like, my hands were shaking, and my
Hmm.
dad was like, "Are you nervous?" Like, and I'm like, "No, this is just what I do." And my mom did say something about your sugar's just off, so she make me like bowls of Jello before games.
I see.
And that was not a good option either
Not
because
a good one.
obviously what was going on was that was the opposite of what I needed.
I see.
So honestly, it was like all of those things kind of made sense, hindsight,
Yeah.
but at this point in time, I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, and all I know is that it kind of very rapidly from that gentleman taking me out of the game very rapidly came to a head. Like I think within 2 weeks, we found out I was hypoglycemic and now just had to completely change my whole like way of eating.
Mm.
And it's
Were you?
weird because you don't think about those things when you're that age.
No, no, not
You
at
don't
all.
think about your health in a scare situation. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're young, fairly healthy,
Totally fine. Yeah.
especially as an athlete. I've been an athlete since I could throw a ball. So it's like people don't look at that. But it also exposed a lot of gaps in my experience. So I always like to say experience leads you to service. And that experience has, of course, led me to the greatest service that I could do, which is
Yeah.
having a meal prep company that is macronutrient focused, which is something that we didn't learn when we were kids. Like when I
Yeah.
was 16, we didn't learn about macronutrients. You just learned about calories and food, and
Yeah.
you go mostly off of like patterns and habits that your family did,
Yeah.
and no one questioned it. And so, of course, being thrust in this position, it's really cool now to turn kind of what was a pain point for me into a
Yeah.
purpose now that we get to do now with Jacked.
For sure. That's cool. Were you able to retain your three sport athlete like lifestyle through high school, or did you have to give up some of that?
So I ended up, I made the decision to drop basketball to focus on softball because I had made the decision that that was going to be my sport in college.
So
So I knew I
softball's pretty
wanted to
fun.
play in college. And so we had a winter league softball. So knowing that, I just put more effort into softball because I knew that that was what I was going to do. And I
Do
was
you?
okay at basketball. I wasn't
Yeah.
great.
But I mean, doesn't everyone at some point like have to? Okay, if you're going to be serious about a sport, like in your junior, senior, maybe even going into college, you have to focus anyway.
Yeah, I would say that that's
Yeah.
important. I
Yeah.
think that the best advice that I was given was from my dad, which he was like, "Hey, do you want to play in at a higher level?" And I said,
Mhm.
"Yes." And he said, "Well, what would that be?" And I said, "Softball." And he's like, "Why not the other sports?"
Yeah.
And when I said, "Well, basketball's okay. It's not my passion
Hmm.
completely. I enjoy it. I enjoy being on a team." And he was good because you're not that good.
Good advice from
but
dad.
that
Yeah.
but that honesty was like really important to me
Yeah.
because otherwise, like it would do me no good for someone to like pump me up just to make me feel good because then maybe I wouldn't have done that and I
Yeah.
wouldn't have spent so much of the off season in winter getting ready for softball. And I was a catcher, so
Oh, you're catching.
relying a lot on my legs and things like that. And of
Yeah.
course, I mean, hitting all of those types of things, working on all those mechanics was really
Yeah.
important. So very grateful for the brutal honesty.
Yeah.
But of course, then I had to make that decision, and that was a really great decision for me.
Yeah. I always think about, oh, not always, but often think about like catchers just always being in that squat position, like for literally hours.
Yeah.
What kind of training, I mean, obviously squatting, but like what kind of training did you have to do like in the gym in order to like what do catchers do to be catchers?
Well, this was like 2000s, so it's way different than what I would recommend catchers doing
Sure. Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But keep in mind for the time, I had a military dad, so it was a requirement for me to be able to do the splits by the season, be able to hold a 5 to 10 minute wall sit.
Wait, is doing
Um,
the splits a military thing?
no, it's just the discipline. Like,
The
so I
discipline.
would get up and I'd do like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and then hold a 5 to 10 minute wall sit. And
Ooh.
then be able to do the split so that way you can block the ball better the more,
Yeah.
limber you are in your hips.
Sure.
So, but what I would recommend a lot of catchers doing today is, of course, a lot of more explosive movements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also
Yeah.
mobility, just because of the knees are involved, the ankles are involved, the hips are involved. And if any one of those is lacking, that's going to flow up the chain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, looking back, that's what I would have done. But back then, that was just kind of like my baseline
Yeah.
was to be able to do those things. And the rest was just getting repetitions. But then you also have to take into consideration the other part of the game, which is knowledge. So I had a real big perspective shift because I didn't always catch. So I pitched a little bit and played shortstop when I was
Mm-hmm.
growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And one practice, we didn't have a catcher. And my dad asked how practice was. And I was like, sucked. And he's like, why? And I was like, because we didn't have a catcher. So there's all these fast balls. So we couldn't hit as much, which I
Right.
loved,
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why didn't you have a catcher? And I was like, I don't know. We don't have one on the team. And he's like, well, why didn't you catch? And I'm like, I'm a shortstop, dad. Like,
Yeah.
I wear number 8 because of Cal Ripken. Like, come on. And he's like, now hold on a minute. Like, let me just switch your perspective. He goes, you know that other than the umpire, the only person that has that view of the field is the catcher. He's like, everyone thinks that the pitcher is the one who makes all the decisions, but you know who tells the pitcher what to pitch? The catcher.
Mm.
He's like, you're the commander if you're the catcher. He's like, look, just next practice, if there's no catcher, go back there and catch. Started catching, never stopped.
Wow. I've never thought about that. I didn't play a ton of baseball, but is that like in football, everybody thinks of the quarterback as the game manager. Is that controversial in baseball as to whether it's the pitcher or is it the catcher? Or is basically everyone who knows baseball knows that the catcher is the.
The catcher is the commander of the team.
Wow, I
They are
never knew
able,
that.
they're the ones who call the offensive plays.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would call offensive plays if we had runners on first and second.
Yeah,
So in that situation, or at first and third rather.
yeah,
So in that situation, what I might do is fake a throw to the pitcher, fake out the person on third, throw them out.
yeah,
Or I could throw a play where shortstop comes in. I fake throw it to the shortstop quick throws once they leave third to go to home. Or if third doesn't lead off very well, they can also catch that person at second or
mm-hmm,
at first. So
mm-hmm.
you can call those plays because you're the only one who has that perspective of the field. But the pitcher has to deliver, right? If
Yeah,
pitcher misses their spot, I mean, that means that the offense is going to have to pick them up.
yeah,
But also as the catcher, you have to know the pitcher
yeah.
and you have to know where their mentally is.
Right.
And you have to pull them out of those spots, right?
That's cool.
So, I think that all in all, being an athlete has been an absolute game changer for me as a business owner.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And
interesting.
having those experiences, of course,
Yeah,
has made me an even better business
yeah.
owner.
So you get the macros nutrition stuff growing out of your experience in high school with the hypoglycemia. Where does like the entrepreneurship come in? Was Jacked your first business you ever started?
That's the first business I ever started. I went to
It is.
school to be a teacher. I taught for 2 years, lived in South America for a little while, came back,
What did you do in
decided
South
teaching.
America?
I just taught at an international school.
Oh, cool. What country?
So, Chile.
And was that in Spanish or in English?
Well, you're at an international school,
Oh,
so we
right.
spoke
You
English,
speak
but
English. I see.
we had students that spoke 3 languages.
Yeah.
So English was like their third language.
Oh, very cool.
So like we'd have kids from Korea that lived in Chile, but then they also learned English because that's where they did their schooling in
I
English. So
see.
I taught world history and geography
Well, that's
is
cool.
what I taught. And that's what I thought my mission in life was to be a teacher. Very quickly realized that was not my path, and started. I worked at a corporate company here, moved to Lexington.
Are you
Um,
from Lexington, or are you do
no, I'm
you
originally from Mansfield, Ohio. So if you've seen the
okay.
Shawshank Redemption, that
Hmm.
prison
Hmm.
is in my hometown. That's
Oh,
pretty much
nice.
it.
There you go.
There's nothing else there.
Oh, it's just prison. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Only entrance.
but moved to Lexington to pursue a job as
Hmm.
a skilled trades recruiter. That's what kind of got me in the corporate work environment.
Uh-huh.
Did that for just shy of 2 years. Got fired. Was doing jacked on the side.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get fired for any scandal. It was just it's a competitive business,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing that would have happened to me,
Yeah.
honestly, because I'm not a quitter, and I would have stayed no matter what.
That's
I'm
funny. You'd think of
always
like never
wanting to
being a
learn.
quitter. You don't think of it as a liability, but in some ways, maybe it would have kept you in a place that wasn't for you, you know?
Exactly. And it can keep you in an environment that's truly not meant for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that until after the fact, but you
Yeah.
got to be brave. I had started doing jacked on the side before I left that business, as I mentioned, because I was
Yeah.
working in that job. And so I was prepping meals for friends that I knew, people that I knew, but then
Hmm.
their friends were the ones who started
Yeah.
asking. Um, Took a quick gig selling insurance after that, just trying to figure out, hey, what do I want to do with my life? I'm 28. Like, what's going
Yeah.
on? Started listening to personal development podcasts and things like that. Was so passionate about Jacked that even when I would go to talk insurance, I'd end up talking about Jack nutrition
Hmm.
and health and wellness
To your
during that
clients,
time.
like to the people you should have been selling insurance
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
insurance, but in a way,
So
it is kind of an insurance policy if you think about it.
this is true. This
Yeah.
is true. But with that, I started like reading a lot of books at that time,
Hmm.
just really, really being a sponge. And every chance I'd get, I'd talk about Jacked. I also had my personal training certification. I'd had that for a couple of years.
Hmm.
Of course, was training myself. And then, of course, just prepping meals for
Yeah.
myself.
Well, how did you come up
So
with the name Jack Nutrition? Was that like immediate and obvious, or did you have to spend
yeah,
time
that was
brainstorming?
immediate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My last name's Jackson. So,
Oh, I
and
see.
then
Okay,
like,
got it.
of course, people think it's like, oh, jacked. I was like, yeah, but also like, what does a jack do? And when something's jacked up in like the literal sense, it means you're lifting up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
a big part of there's like multi layers to I go down the rabbit hole when it comes to purpose. If you're going to create something, you might as well tie it to something meaningful and purpose.
sure.
So, jacked is kind of easy because the last name's Jackson. But of course, when people think of being jacked, they think of being jacked. And then, of course, there's the idea of like lifting people up, which is what we
Nice.
try and do with nutrition.
Very cool. So when you first started to take this thing seriously, are you thinking, and I'm going to handle all the cooking recipes? Like, is that something that you're interested in? Or are you more interested in the business macros, like selling the story of it? Or are you thinking, no, are you working at the recipe level too?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I was doing everything.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up with the recipes. I also am a certified nutrition coach.
Hmm.
So taking my coaching and my experience with just being a human, like especially in my experience with my hypoglycemia, my
Yeah.
experience with going to, the doctors and having the experience that I had and finding the gaps, I was like, okay, we need to create something that brings purpose to this pain point that we had, right? So people don't understand balancing protein. So for me, it exposed a lot of gaps in the food system and how we eat traditionally,
Hmm.
right? Uh, Food pyramid, carbs are at the bottom, the biggest one, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
realizing that that's not really serving us super well, especially when it comes from a performance standpoint.
Hmm.
Now, if you're an endurance athlete, you're doing, something that is requiring a lot of you and you're able to process carbohydrates like a normal person, unlike me,
Yeah.
great. Carbs are great. But at the same time, we also have to look at the ingredients and how those carbs are made because highly processed carbs all the time probably down the road are not going to be super beneficial. So I wanted to be a part of that and bring my knowledge into the the business, if you will,
Yeah.
and utilize that. But then also there's another part of it. Food is a part of culture. Food is tied to
Yeah.
memories. Um, people enjoy just food. Like, and there was such a stigma around if you want to get lean, if you want to be jacked, then you got to eat broccoli, rice, and chicken, and that's
Yeah.
all you can eat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so not true.
Mm.
So being able to kind of mesh the two where you can have variety and teach folks a variety of food as long as you're controlling the portions and also that it's a balanced meal. So, the protein in our meals is going to be equal to, if not more than, or just under carbohydrate content
Mhm.
versus it being like crap ton of carbs and then 2 ounces to three
Yeah.
ounces of protein.
Yeah. Do you have like a test kitchen where when you're developing a new recipe where you can sort of, okay, how do we balance this and also make it something that fits the culture or will be, tasty? Like how do you test new dishes in that way?
Yeah. So now I have a team. I have
Oh,
a
you do.
culinary team. So I brought them in because I'm not a classically trained chef. I learned how to cook because my dad was in the military and we
Hmm.
didn't have normal stuff in the house. It wasn't like ramen noodles and mac and cheese.
Yeah.
So it was like shrimp and real food. So I had to learn how to cook with real
Yeah.
food. And that took a lot of just experimenting and,
Hmm.
uh, you know, being willing to be curious,
Hmm.
which I think is a lost
Yeah.
art. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a culinary crew now and we do recipe labs, but a lot of the base ingredients are things that I've been making for, the 6 years since Jack's been in business.
Hmm.
So utilizing it's kind of makes it easier when you have a standard because there's less options to choose from that are bad.
Yeah.
So when you have that standard and you operate by those standards, it makes it easier to make decisions. But at the same time, I think in ways that we've developed the business has been we are completely Kentucky proud. So we get a vast majority of our ingredients and our supplies from right here in Kentucky. And I think
Nice.
that's really important for eating within season,
Yeah.
as well as providing something local. So the process, the process that these farmers or like protein processors are going through, what they're feeding their animals, things like that.
How did you go about the process of establishing relationships with food suppliers, farmers, and protein processors?
Uh,
Because I have
I
to
think
imagine
the
that was a
big,
world that you didn't initially know, just coming from a different background.
I think it's just having the desire to do it and being willing to have the conversations.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
did
think that's the
you walk up
biggest
to
thing. Like
farms or like what
you
did you
gotta,
do?
you gotta find a way. You gotta make it happen. And if you don't, you're probably not built for entrepreneurship, just
Yeah,
being honest.
yeah,
But it's the standard that we have. We have our pillars of nutrition that we operate off of. So our pillars of nutrition are as much whole foods as possible, as well as
What does whole
sustainability.
food? What's the definition of whole food? Like, what is a whole food?
Single or minimally processed ingredients. So,
Okay.
like for example, a highly processed ingredient would be a potato chip, right?
Hmm.
So you're taking a potato and you're really, really putting it through multiple processes to make it into a potato chip. You're adding
Yeah.
ingredients, you're adding additives to make it shelf stable, etc.
Hmm.
So that's not necessarily a whole food.
Not a whole
Like
food.
a true whole food is a single ingredient meal. So like apples, right?
One. Yep.
So it's one ingredient. But we utilize whole food ingredients, but we might have multiple single food
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
ingredients,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And minimally processed. We stick to that as much as possible, at least an 80-20. And that's what we recommend folks do
Hmm.
in their own lives, just an
Yeah.
80-20. Sustainability, we have a menu that changes weekly so that folks are not eating the same thing all the time. They're getting a
Right.
variety of food to introduce into their gut microbiome. And there's only a certain group of people that can really honestly eat the same thing all the time and they love it.
Yeah. Right.
So if it's not sustainable for a lifestyle, it's not going to be something you can do long term.
Hmm.
And we're trying to create people to be healthy long term. Mindfulness, being aware of we actually weigh out all of our portion sizes to make sure that they fit a solid macronutrient profile. So we actually weigh out the portion sizes, but we also invite our customers to pay attention to ingredients that don't sit right with them.
Yeah.
If they eat bread and it makes them sick all the time or have brain fog or bloated, that's your body talking to you. And
Yeah.
it's telling you like, hey, we're not
Stop doing that.
Yeah, we're not jiving with that.
Yeah.
So we teach people to look at those cues as well.
Yeah.
The last thing is belief in self-worth. I think as a nutrition coach, the one thing that I see more than anything and that I coach more than anything is people's belief about themselves and their self-worth is what leads them to make poor decisions when it comes to their food. They'll get emotional, have an emotional week. They say, screw it. And then they eat
Yeah.
whatever. And then they regret that.
Yeah.
And so understanding what we call believing in your mission or living your mission. If you have something that you bring to this world, you bring to your family, you bring to your office, at work, whatever that may be, you realize that you have a job to do and you're going to show up way less if you are not healthy. If you're not, like for me, for example, using me as an example, if my blood sugar was not right and I passed out on the field, I was not reliable. I was not able to do my job.
Yeah.
And I needed to fuel for that performance to be able to live out my mission, which was to play a college ball, right?
Yeah.
So when people apply that to being a mom or a dad, also being a business owner or maybe an entrepreneur, so working for another business, but wanting to be successful at it, going to the gym at the same time, you have something that should be enough for you to want to fuel for that.
Yeah.
Because you realize that you're giving people half your energy when you have brain fog, you're bloated, you're living, you feel the gap of you where you are and where you want to be. Right. And that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think is where a lot of people live is somewhere in here and they know what they're capable of. And that gap can destroy a lot of people.
Yeah. For sure.
So in order to have folks fuel for purpose, we have to remind them of their mission, that they're here for whatever reason that is for them, but they need to fuel for that performance.
Yeah. So how do you do that education piece on top of the meal prep service? Because I can imagine someone just orders your food and they get your food and they aren't hearing this education piece at all. Like, how do you guys practically apply that?
Social media.
Social media.
So utilizing social media as a platform to empower folks versus just using it to take pictures of our food and say, buy our product.
Yeah.
You know, our folks are investing in a lifestyle. They're not buying a meal. Yes, they are. Like on the surface level, that's what they're
Sure.
doing.
Yeah.
But the messaging behind it is super important. Why would you even buy from me when you can actually cook yourself, right? So it's like, okay, but you're busy, but you don't have time. You've restarted on Monday 1,000 times. So we're going to help you out with that. So utilizing social media as a platform, because you have to remember in this day and age, there's multiple forms of consumption. And I'm in the consumption business, not of just food, but of the media that people are consuming, beliefs, thoughts. All of those things are things that people consume on a daily basis. And they, in turn, impact the choices that we make on a daily basis. So if I can put out education on our platforms that are free, it's empowering people to develop a mindset that's been different than what they've had for a long time. And it's that anchor that has led them to restarting on a Monday or, you know, they set a resolution in January. It's like that wheel, like they get sick of, like folks get sick of it and they're like, all right, I'm going to attack this. This is my goals. This is what I want.
Yeah.
And then life becomes inconvenient multiple times. And you go to that birthday party and you have a piece of cake. And then that makes you feel guilty. And so you self-sabotage. And then you start eating. You're like, well, screw it. I didn't do it perfect, all or nothing mindset. I didn't do it perfect. So they quit and then they self-sabotage until they get back up here and they're so tired of the way that they've been that they start that cycle all over again. So we're like doing a pattern interrupt and be like, the way that you've been thinking about this all or nothing mindset type thing isn't the way to go. It is like, look, if you made a mistake, that happened. Why did you make the mistake? And we call it, it's a coaching method. We call it notice and name. So when you can notice something, like if I am up past 10 o'clock at night, I crave tacos. So you notice that and be like, okay, well, if I went to bed before 10 o'clock, I'm not even going to like get to that place where I'm having that craving.
Right. Yep.
Or it's like, you know, someone has a phone conversation with a parrot and it stresses them out because they have an estranged relationship with the parrot. Then after that, they want to eat candy, right? So it's noticing and naming that. And instead of judging yourself for it, you just use it as data, as information. And when you do that, you can learn what your patterns are and you can navigate that on your own And maybe you need a coach to talk that through, but that's a method that we teach as part of an empowerment piece to empower people to start making decisions for their wellness.
Yeah.
And that also leads back to, my experience where I was going to doctors and professionals and not getting something that considered my lifestyle. Only you know you best. And it's like kind of taking your car to the mechanic, but you don't know diddly about cars. So it's really easy for you to kind of like all the
Yeah.
information the mechanic gives you go over your head.
Yep.
And then if it's too expensive, you're not going to fix your car and eventually your machine's going to run down. You can't get to work. Then that
Yeah.
makes a bigger impact. So we kind of take all those examples and funnel it down into you as a person. And so if we have people who can understand a basic understanding of how to fuel themselves day to day, that's going to make an impact on their family. They're going to start showing up better. They're going to start being more successful in their workplace. And then if you add the addition to them working out on top of that, they're actually going to get the results that are reflective of the work that they've been putting in, not only in the gym, but
Yeah.
then also at home. And then that's a game changer right there. And that's where you marry the fitness industry in with meal prep, because that's
Right.
the one
Yeah.
thing as a personal trainer, you don't go home with people. So when they're not
You
eating
can't do
enough
that.
calories and they're tired and they're inflamed, and then their body's in a survival mode, they start putting on body fat to survive. You're like, look, you have to start eating more protein. You have to start eating more food to get through your water, to get through what you're doing in a day.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when the folks get the results that are promised with a nutrition lifestyle that matches the goals of the training style, then gyms are going to see more retention because people are getting results over time.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned retention. I was just thinking as you were talking with this, I mean, like, obviously there are a million different meal prep things. A lot of them are aimed at, like, busy people in their 30s or whatever who are working or whatever. But I
Yeah.
haven't seen one that has such a compelling story that's connected up to individuality, wellness, uh, like who I actually am as a person, what my goals are, so on and so forth. So I was thinking, man, you must have better retention than your customers. It would be interesting to if there was any data around that, so you could sort of compare people who aren't
Yeah.
pairing it with this kind of messaging. What kind of, are people just buying the 30-day trial and then they drop off or something like that? It'd be interesting to see that impact on retention, customer
Yeah.
retention. So
Yeah. I can't speak for other companies. Obviously, I don't have access to all of that data.
yeah,
But I know for us, our retention is amazingly high
yeah,
because we're also checking in with our customers weekly. We're shooting them encouraging messages. They get a handwritten
really,
card. They get
oh
a
wow,
novelty experience because they're trying to change their life. And I
sure,
don't take that lightly.
yeah,
I assume that they may just hate cooking.
yeah,
And it's really simple. But if I just view it as, oh, like people just don't want to cook, they're lazy, like I'm not going to put in the effort
right,
into the
yeah,
process or have my team put in the energy into their cooking process. And that's the game changer. When people say, like, what's different from Jack Nutrition than anyone else? I can say those things like we have a mission, we have standards, we have these. I'm, of course, owned and operated by a certified nutrition coach and a personal trainer. I can put all those data points out there, but the most important thing is the energy behind the meals.
yeah,
So I'm a big energy person. So, like, my team listens to personal development podcasts. We have a reading. Everyone has to read Extreme Ownership. That's our number one core value when they come in to work for us. So they're going through the growth changes that our customers are going through. So that gets involved into the energy. So then when I'm also building these relationships with local farmers and things like that, I'm sharing with them the really cool stories of what our customers are doing in the community.
yeah,
And so it's just a synergistic relationship. So from buying the product to how the product is made, also, like, it's a true thing. When things are made with love, that's a transfer of energy
yeah,
versus, you going into a, like a KFC and then they just like plop your stuff in a box and say, hey, there you go. I could care less if you buy this or if I don't see you tomorrow. Right.
right,
So we're creating a customer service experience, but also encouraging them because a lot of people who are changing their life, they're the ones who's changing the trajectory of their household and all of those types of things. So we got to honor that. We got to show up for them in that. We might be the
yeah,
only support they have right now.
yeah. I suspect that that emphasizes that you're a local company. So maybe to sort of wrap up the discussion here, how do you think about retaining those close relationships with your customer base and then growing a business?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is to focus on those standards. Those standards keep us within an operating rhythm to help people across multiple spectrums. And I think that when you have a standard, that makes it easier to make those choices because you're not going to deviate from the mission. So
Right.
we have an interesting internal concept. Instead of a hierarchy for a business being like one person making all the decisions at the top and then you have all these people down here executing, it's
Mhm.
like a funnel. So like we're all here, but the mission's down here. And it's all of our responsibilities, no matter what position you hold in the business, to uphold the mission, which is to help folks live their mission without sacrificing nutrition. And I think that that is what keeps it to our customers getting what they need
Mhm.
because it's all to uphold that mission
Yeah.
versus being the other way around and just creating a product that people can use or not use. It's very people first.
So are there opportunities or things that you have turned down because they don't fit, whereas like a KFC type of business probably would have accepted it just for the sake of getting bigger or more?
Yeah, yeah. So shipping has been a big thing. Um, if I want to do it, I want to do it right because the
Hmm.
people who are not local to the community don't know me from Adam.
Sure.
So what they have and their experience that they have is what that box looks like when it shows up on their doorstep. So we have been R&Ding shipping and building relationships with distributors for like 2.5 years. People are
Hmm.
like, well, why aren't you shipping yet? What the
Yeah.
heck? Like, and I'm like, because if this does not get done right, this could mean someone saying, this is what happens every time I try to do a health journey.
Yeah.
This isn't for me. And I take that super serious.
Yeah.
So I could speed up the process and make a lot of failures along the way, but a first impression is everything.
Yeah.
And if that box comes in and someone's meals are not to tempt and they have to throw all those meals out, like you have to have a very good policy in place in order to be able to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
But I would much rather be patient with it and create a product that is going to be supporting people
Yeah.
as they start their process. So that's a big one. And the other one would be, we are in a commercial kitchen space, but we don't have that storefront. That's something we're working on right now.
Hmm. Right.
But as a non-franchise business, as a, I don't have investors or anything like that. The business is,
Is you?
we started it from scratch, like
Yeah.
tailgate of a truck, right?
Yep.
So it's really hard to build things that are real. It takes a lot more time,
Yeah.
but everything's a win-learn situation, never a win-lose. So even when I have a failure, I learn and I come back stronger,
Yeah.
right? And so being in not having a storefront, we've delayed that because it kept overhead low. So I could increase the quality of the food. I could increase the quality of how the product
Hmm.
comes to our customers.
Yep.
And I can invest in that versus having the storefront overhead. But those things, that thing we are working on right now. So, and hopefully we'll have within the next year or so a storefront location.
I look forward to that. That'll be
Oh
awesome.
yeah, me too. I'm
Very cool.
excited about it. It's coming.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jessica, thank you so much for the time. What an inspiring
Likewise.
story, and what a cool the business you're running. Where can people get plugged in and to Jack Nutrition if they want to take the plunge?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow us at Jack Nutrition Lex on all platforms. You can also, if you want a little bit more coaching type things, you can also follow me at Jacked and Jessica on Instagram and Facebook. And then you can look up our menu it changes weekly on jacked-nutrition.com.
Awesome. Jessica,
Trevor, you're awesome. Thank you.